Welcome to another edition of Take 5, a production of thepracticingcatholic.com. I'm your host, Joel Schmidt. Today I'm chatting with Devin Rose, Catholic convert and author of The Protestant's Dilemma, published by Catholic Answers. Devin, welcome, and thanks for joining me to discuss the book.
Joel, it is great to see you again and to be here.
Yeah, you and I go back a couple of years. It's good to see you. It has been a while, hasn't it?
Yes, it has been. We had first met at the Catholic New Media Conference, but that was back in 2011.
So you've made the rounds since then. The book has come out. You and I talked about it a little back then. Catholic Answers picked it up. And as a fellow convert, I remember you and I had the chance to sort of swap conversion stories, which converts enjoy doing. And you were just on the journey home, which was great. I got a chance to see that. For our viewers who haven't seen your piece in the Journey Home, which just aired on Easter Monday, give us a thumbnail sketch of your conversion story, because you really have a fascinating conversion story.
Yeah, sure, Joel. I'd be happy to. Grew up atheist, kind of called myself an agnostic, but really was an atheist. Didn't believe in God. Mm-hmm. Did well, sport, school, all that, and so went into college very cocky, mm-hmm. and for a while did well. But then hit some big problems with social anxiety disorder, panic attacks, depression, and those humbled me. Those brought me to my knees, literally. And I started praying and asking God for help, because it was either God or it was commit suicide. And I turned to God. He began to help me, and I felt this help, and I started believing in Jesus. That led me to the Baptist church, because that's what most of my friends were. And I was baptized Baptist. And then about a year later, though, had investigated Catholicism and came to believe that's where the fullness of the truth was found.
It's interesting, the atheism and the belief system that you had. It sounds like you never really had to face the existential consequences of that system of beliefs until you were really brought to the edge.
Yeah, exactly. And I think most atheists haven't. And that's why they can be an atheist and sort of be kind of seem happy and seem fine. But when they do face it, oh boy, that's when it gets serious and gets real.
Again, as a fellow convert, I had a profound conversion. I didn't go out and write a book, though. What motivated you to go out and write a book through through the lens of your experience converting to the church?
Yeah, I didn't set out to write a book either. I just started blogging, kind of like y'all. And after a while of blogging about random stuff, Catholic stuff, other stuff, the topic started converging on apologetics. And that was a topic I had kind of put up on the shelf, because I was so tired of all that arguing and the disappointment of seeing my friends who are Protestant not really get it. But years and years later, these blog posts began to all center around apologetics and sort of have this certain tone to them or style that after a while I realized, hey, that might fit in a book. And I didn't think anyone was going to publish the book, because, when you haven't written a book and no one's published it, you just think, well, who wants to publish my book? But so I wrote the book and eventually self-published, because no one did want to publish the book. But eventually Catholic Answers said they would, and so that's how this book came about.
So what was the book called before? Remind me.
Yeah, original title was If Protestantism is True. And the new book definitely has that. Every single chapter begins with If Protestantism is True. And so it's the same argument style. It's just kind of beefed up and made a lot stronger.
I mean, there are apologetics books out there. What niche do you feel like the book that you've written that that just sort of came forth out of you, and Catholic Answers eventually, picked up and thought, hey, this is something that we need to add to our collection. What niche do you think that fills that wasn't being filled before, perhaps?
Yeah, I think it really boils down the key issues in a very logically accessible way, so that people are very quickly able to understand what the central arguments are on each side and judge the merits between them. And so in the book, there's 30 some odd arguments, and each one's only maybe 3 or 4 pages long, so they're pretty short. And I think that was the main benefit of the style of the book and why it seemed to have struck a nerve.
I was struck by it. It's got almost it's got sort of like an edgy, pithy Aquinas feel to it. I say that and I answer that. It's very I think people find Aquinas to not be very accessible, but if you like that sort of back and forth logical kind of argumentative style, this sort of makes that style accessible, I think.
Yeah, and originally my editor at Catholic Answers, Todd Aglioloro, said maybe we could do this kind of like an Aquinas. And I restructured the arguments to be a full, formal Thomas Aquinas-like thing. And he said, maybe not that much like Aquinas.
Who do you think the audience is for this book? Because I can envision two scenarios here. One is the Protestant who's searching, who's maybe starting to take the journey that you took, bump into some of these arguments and go, that doesn't really end well if I carry that out far enough. Or is it more the Catholic who is looking to defend their faith against, maybe some of their friends who are needling them and are attacking their faith and doesn't quite know how to answer some of the common arguments? What did you have in mind when you were maybe when you were writing it, but even more so when you after Catholic Answers picked it up and you were editing it?
Yeah, I first had in mind my fellow Catholics. So that they would understand these arguments and have be able to add this to their arsenal in a sense of very strong and short arguments that they can understand, that aren't just like memorize some gimmicky comeback, but no, what really is at the root. But as I worked on it more, I thought, I also want this to be the book that not only a Protestant could read, but also a Catholic would feel good about giving to his Protestant friend. And not feeling like he was a jerk, doing so.
You're both an atheist convert and a Protestant convert. So is your next project then the atheist dilemma, or if atheism were true, or do you have anything in the hopper right now? What are you up to?
Yeah, it's funny. Even though I came from atheism, I've not felt the real strong call to be the apologist to the atheist,
Sure.
And there are some guys who do that so well, like Trent Horn at Catholic Answers is one.
He's awesome.
Yeah, I'm just like, I read his book and I was like, man, I don't know any of these arguments, I need to learn this. I'm supposed to be an apologist.
Yeah.
But I wrote another manuscript, and actually a few years ago, and it's sort of a handbook of, okay, maybe you can't be an apologist because you don't want to spend all the annoying hours and time to do so. God's not calling you that, but can I boil down for you sort of the Catholic apologist secret handbook of how you can lead your Protestant friends to the Catholic faith? Sort of like, this argument leads to this argument, leads to this one. But your Protestant friend will probably say this, and then you can respond with this, and here's what they're thinking, and don't do this because that's going to really tick them off. And so that's kind of what the book is. It's a lot more, it's not just pure arguments like this book, The Protestant's Dilemma. It has a better feel. And so there's a decent chance Catholic Answers is going to be interested in that. There's nothing firmed up yet, but that's a possibility.
Oh, it sounds fascinating. It actually sounds a little bit more, dare I say, conversational than
Yes.
than maybe The Protestant's Dilemma is a little bit.
Yeah, and much more like psychological, because a lot of stuff with talking with Protestant, people, there's a lot of psychology going on that we as Catholics might not necessarily know, like with certain words or certain fears they have because of how they've been brought up to think about the Catholic Church.
Sure, absolutely.
And it's helpful to understand that.
Devin, thanks for joining me today. Thanks for talking to us about the book, and tell our viewers where they can get the book.
Yeah, you can get the book from Catholic.com or Amazon, and it's starting to show up in Catholic bookstores too. So obviously patronize, the Catholic bookstores all that you can, and Catholic.com, and if you have a moment of weakness and buy it through Amazon, I won't get mad at you, but you know how it is.
One more thing, tell our viewers where they can find you online.
Oh yeah, my blog is St. Joseph's Vanguard. You can also just Google Devin Rose, and it'll come up first. And I blog with some regularity. I try to go for maybe once a week or so, and it may be something about farming or Catholic apologetics or just about anything.
You're a Renaissance man. Very good.
Well, thank you, Joel.
Well, thanks very much for joining us, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Take 5, production of thepracticingcatholic.com. My guest, Devin Rose. I'm Joel Schmidt. Thanks for tuning in.